Stop for a second and breathe before you hear this, because this is not light, and it is not casual, and it did not arrive here without pressure building somewhere in silence. Someone has been carrying words they never sent, feelings they never handled well, and fear they kept pushing down until it started pushing back. This is not one of those easy stories where everything suddenly becomes clear and beautiful. It is heavier than that, more human than that. And if you have been feeling a shift lately, if someone's energy has felt strange, distant, restless, or unfinished, then stay with me, because this may explain more than you think. There is a person connected to you who has been trying to live as if their heart moved on, while deep down they know it never truly did. They acted fine. They stayed quiet. They kept the surface calm. But silence is not peace, and distance is not always detachment. Sometimes it is only fear wearing a clean face. Listen closely, because this matters. They are not at ease. They are not as certain as they tried to look. And the message rising inside them now is urgent, not because everything is fixed, but because they are finally afraid that what they lost may not wait for them anymore. For much longer than you realized, this person has kept something locked inside, not for a few days, not for one passing mood, for a long time, longer than they would ever admit out loud. Their feelings did not turn cold overnight. They did not suddenly stop caring in the clean, simple way their actions may have suggested. What happened was slower, quieter, more hidden. They buried what they felt because they did not know how to carry it in an honest way. They told themselves silence would be easier. They told themselves distance would protect them. They told themselves there would be more time later, a better moment later, more courage later. But feelings pushed into the dark do not disappear. They stay there. They grow heavier. They wait. And one day, that weight rises all at once. That is where this message begins. Not from perfect clarity, not from bravery, not from some sudden wisdom. It comes from panic, from regret, from the sharp realization that too much time may have passed while they were hiding behind delay. If this is touching something real in you, keep listening, because the next part goes even deeper. What they feel now is not new love. It is old truth finally catching up with them after a long season of avoidance. Something changed in them recently, and it changed hard. Maybe they saw something that reminded them of you. Maybe they heard your name when they did not expect to. Maybe the noise around them finally became quiet enough for the truth to speak louder than their excuses. Whatever the trigger was, it shook them. It pulled them out of that guarded place where they had been hiding for so long. One thought landed with full force. They could lose you for real. Not in theory. Not in some dramatic scene. Quietly. Permanently. That thought did not come to them in the middle of a busy day when they could brush it off and keep moving. It came in still moments, late hours, empty phone nights, times when other people's company felt shallow and all the distractions stopped working. When life got quiet, the questions got louder, and the loudest one was simple. What if the person who once understood me best is no longer waiting to understand me at all? Nobody else has carried your energy in the same way. Nobody else listened the same way, saw the same way, comforted the same way. That truth hit them harder than they expected, and with that truth came urgency. Not pure love alone, fear too. Deep fear. Fear of losing something rare that cannot just be replaced because they finally decided to notice its value too late. If they could speak to you without pride getting in the way, without defenses rising up to protect their image, they would say something plain. They should have done more. They should have done it sooner. They thought your care would remain in place no matter how long they stayed unclear, unavailable, or silent. They did not fully understand that silence also makes choices. Silence wounds. Silence creates distance. Silence tells a story, even when no words are spoken. They are beginning to see that now, and the weight of that realization is not small. They carry guilt for not showing up when presence mattered more than perfection. They carry guilt for holding back honesty when honesty was the only thing that could have changed anything. They carry guilt for choosing the safer path when the moment called for courage. At the time, stepping back felt easier. It felt more controlled. Avoiding the truth felt manageable, but avoiding pain never removes it. It only delays it and lets it grow teeth. Stay with me here, because this next truth is important. Their struggle was never that they felt too little. It was the opposite. They felt too much and did not know how to handle what they felt. Opening up would have meant risk. It would have meant uncertainty. It would have meant facing parts of themselves they were not ready to meet. So fear made the decisions, and fear always charges interest later. That is what happened here. They let fear speak where honesty should have spoken. They let pride stand where love should have stood. They let silence become louder than everything real inside them. And now those choices have turned into consequences they can no longer ignore. There is another layer to this that weighs on them even more. They can feel that you are not the same anymore. Your energy changed. Your tone changed. The way you respond changed. Even your quiet carries a different kind of strength now. You may still care on some level, but you are no longer chasing clarity the way you once did. You are no longer repeating yourself, hoping they will finally meet you where you were standing. You are no longer trapped in that painful space of waiting, guessing, and hurting in circles. That shift unsettles them deeply because they leaned on your patience far more than was fair. They leaned on your softness while keeping their own heart guarded. Somewhere inside, they assumed you would keep understanding forever. They assumed your care meant endless availability. They never fully considered that one day you would choose yourself. But you did, quietly, strongly, and they feel it now. Your calm speaks louder to them than any argument ever could. So listen carefully. What they fear losing is not only you as a person. They fear losing the feeling of being truly seen by someone who did not judge them harshly for what was seen. They fear losing that emotional safety they never fully admitted they depended on. They fear losing the rare space where they felt understood without being forced, managed, or pushed too fast. Only now are they starting to understand that not every bond can be rebuilt once it breaks under the weight of neglect. Not every connection can be found again in someone new. That truth follows them everywhere now. It rises in quiet moments. It shows up when they try to move on and still cannot find real emotional ground. It returns every time they compare another person to you and feel the difference instantly. This is why the urgency keeps growing. It is not about control. It is about time. They no longer feel like they have plenty of it. They can feel a door moving toward closure, and what frightens them most is that it is not closing with drama. It is closing softly, slowly, calmly. And that kind of closing is the most serious kind because when a heart closes in peace, it rarely swings open just because someone suddenly panics. They want to reach out. They want to explain themselves. They want to offer an apology that means something. But fear keeps stopping them before they begin. Fear asks if it is already too late. Fear asks if you still care. Fear asks if revealing their real self now will only end in rejection. So they write messages in their head and erase them before they ever become real. They imagine conversations and never speak them. While they delay, the pressure inside them keeps building. And this is not me telling you that everything will suddenly become beautiful. It is not a promise of reunion. It is not fantasy. It is something more honest than that. They are not pretending the damage never happened. They are not pretending they now have every answer they once lacked. What they are finally admitting, at least inside themselves, is that treating you like you would always be there was wrong. They did not understand your full value until they felt the emptiness left behind where your presence used to live. When truth arrives this late, it brings pain with it, because it arrives holding the shape of what may already be slipping away. But what this means for you matters more than what it means for them. So hear this clearly. This is not asking you to freeze your life and wait. It is not asking you to forgive before you are ready. It is not asking you to walk back into the same pain you already survived. It is only revealing what they failed to show with actions. You mattered more than they knew how to say. Your absence is louder to them now than your presence seemed when you were there every day. What existed between you was real, even if they handled it badly. And the power now sits with your next choice, not with their sudden wave of regret. Real power does not move just because someone else finally feels scared. Desperation is not the same as readiness. A person can feel intense loss and still not be prepared to love well. Right now, they are sitting in the results of who they chose to be when it mattered most, and results are brutally honest. They strip away excuses. They cut through stories people tell themselves to stay comfortable. They show exactly what silence cost. This person is going back through old moments now, moments they once thought were too small to matter. They remember the way you checked on them for no special reason. They remember how you could sense their mood before they said a word. They remember how you tried to understand before you blamed. They remember how you stayed steady even when they pulled away. These memories hurt because they reveal something hard to accept. You met them at a depth they had not yet reached inside themselves. You offered a level of emotional honesty they were not ready to return. For a long time, they treated distance like safety. Now that same distance feels like exposure. They feel seen by you even through the silence, and your silence is different now. It no longer feels like a short pause. It feels like real space, real movement, real separation. They sense that you are no longer building your emotional world around their confusion. You are no longer waiting for them to catch up. And that awakens a deeper fear than simple rejection. They fear they may no longer hold the same place in your life at all. That thought shakes them because your calm feels final in a way anger never did. Anger still leaves a door open sometimes. Calm can mean acceptance. Calm can mean you stopped fighting reality. Calm can mean you chose peace over chasing someone who would not meet you fully. They have no map for this version of you. They understood mixed signals. They understood emotional fog. They knew how to hide inside that. But your new clarity leaves them exposed. You are no longer trying to prove your worth to someone who could not fully receive it. You are standing in your own value now, and that changes everything. Their fear becomes more layered here. They worry that even if they come forward, they still may not be ready to become the person this connection would require. They worry they might speak from emotion, but fail in consistency again. They worry you see them more clearly than they see themselves. And that may be true. They want to tell you their feelings were real. They want to explain the silence, the overwhelm, the confusion, the avoidance. But they are slowly learning a painful fact. Arriving late does not erase what happened. Good intentions do not rebuild trust by themselves. Words without changed behavior sound thin once someone has learned through pain. That is why they hesitate. This is not only about reaching you now, it is also about facing themselves, and that part may be even harder, because losing you forces them to look at what fear has cost and what fear has revealed about who they have been. You became a mirror for them, and instead of looking deeply, they turned away. Now they miss not only you, but the reflection they lost in your presence. Without you close, they feel cut off from a part of themselves they avoided for years. That is why what you are sensing feels so strong. It is not only that they want you back, it is that they are waking up to themselves, and self-awareness can hurt more than heartbreak when it arrives late. Regret is heavy. Watching your strength grow makes it heavier. They know they cannot return casually this time, like nothing happened. Like the door is still wide open. Like you are still standing exactly where they left you. You did not break the way they expected. You did not beg forever. You did not collapse under their distance. You found more of yourself. You protected your peace. And strangely, that has increased both their fear and their respect for you. They know that if they return at all, it cannot be with half-truths, weak effort, or temporary emotion. It would require honesty. It would require steadiness. It would require real change over time, and that is where they feel unsteady, because they do not want to come back as the same person, but they are still unsure who they are without their protective walls. So they remain suspended between wanting and avoiding, between reaching and hiding, between the pull of love and the habit of retreat. That is why their energy feels mixed. Their heart points one way, their actions still point another. They imagine being brave. They imagine saying the right words. They imagine showing up better than before. But imagining is easy. Living it is hard. Real repair does not happen through one emotional moment. It asks for repeated action. It asks for consistency when the feeling fades and effort is still required. Deep down, they know words alone will not move you now. You are no longer waiting to be changed by promises. You are watching for what is real. You are watching for what stays. That does not mean your heart vanished. It means your strength grew, quietly, steadily. You sat with disappointment. You faced the truth. You stopped running from what their behavior had already shown you. They are only beginning that same process now, and timing matters. Growth after loss feels different from growth, while love is still safely within reach. They know that even if they speak now, the old version of this bond cannot simply return. What they miss most may be the version of you who trusted without holding back. And trust does not reset just because someone finally finds their voice. Once trust changes, the shape of the whole connection changes with it. So they stand at a doorway now. Behind them is the old comfort of hiding. Ahead of them is the risk of being fully honest without protection. If they stay where they are, they may lose you without remedy. If they step forward, they must face themselves without excuses. That is the part they avoided for a very long time. What you have been feeling is not random. It is not your imagination. It is a real shift happening under the surface. Loss does not always arrive with loud noise. Sometimes it comes like a whisper. Sometimes it looks like emotional withdrawal. Sometimes it shows up as a calm change in someone's presence that cannot be argued away. They feel that whisper now when they think about contacting you. They feel it when they picture you moving ahead with peace instead of pain. That image unsettles them because they cannot control it. They cannot charm their way around it. They cannot stay busy enough to silence it forever. For the first time, they are facing what their fear truly took from them. This was never only bad timing. It was fear of being seen. Fear of failing in love. Fear of not knowing how to hold something real without damaging it. They return in memory to so many moments when they could have spoken and stayed silent instead. Those moments felt small then. Now they feel heavy. You did not suddenly leave the connection. You slowly adjusted to what they showed they were able or willing to give. You stopped doing all the emotional labor alone. You stopped filling silence with hope. You stopped hurting yourself to keep something alive by yourself. That does not happen in one dramatic day. It happens slowly, quietly, and they see it clearly now. They notice you no longer lean on them the same way. They notice your mood no longer moves around their inconsistency. They notice your calm, and that calm frightens them because it may mean you accepted the truth already. Standing in truth is hard for someone who lived behind excuses. They want to explain that their feelings were real. They want to say they were overwhelmed, confused, scared, and not ready. Some of that may be true. But they are learning that truth spoken late still has to answer for lateness. A sincere apology matters, yes, but apology without change cannot carry the full weight of repair. They know this. That is why they pause. Growth is not soft. Growth hurts when it arrives after the moment where it was most needed. They are inside that discomfort now. The discomfort of missed chances, the discomfort of self-knowledge, the discomfort of seeing that the best moment may have passed while they were waiting to feel safe enough to act. And that is the real urgency in them. Not only to reach you, but to become honest with themselves at last. The deeper power still sits with you. You do not need to rush because they are afraid. You do not need to open any door because silence finally became loud to them. You do not owe immediate access to someone who arrived late with understanding. The only thing you are being asked to do is stay true to yourself. If this message found you at the right time, then somewhere inside you already know that the biggest question was never only whether they feel the loss now. The real question is whether anything truly real, steady, and lasting can grow from this point forward. And that answer will not come from their panic. It will come from their actions, your truth, and the quiet wisdom you have earned.